basically. So this is stuff that I know is going on, stuff that I've seen on Twitter, stuff that people have emailed me about in the since the last one, that I wanted to kind of share with you and let you know. I also actually Matt suggested that I just run through quickly what we did at the last event very briefly, so people that are new here can kind of connect with what happened last time as well. So the last event we had the Urban Institute come and present their research interests. And I went to the launch event at the Upper Chapel the week after, which was really fascinating actually. And I still I've got loads of notes I want to write a blog post about that I've never got around to, but I will. We also talked about LoRaWAN and the idea of setting up a community-owned LoRaWAN network. That's a long-range Wi-Fi network. So it's low energy, long range, low bandwidth, and we still need someone to sort of take the project on basically, because we've got people interested in hosting a node. You can buy the device that goes up in the window and has, depending on how much money you pay for the device and what the capability is, between a sort of 3 kilometre and 7 mile range. So we'd only need maybe 5 of these things to connect up to the city centre and provide a network that people can build devices on, sensors to communicate back, create our own open source cloud, and it's something that's worth experimenting with and seeing if we can create a low barrier to access network for that kind of thing that maybe could be used by some social enterprises. But I know Arab would be interested in hosting a node. I know at least 3 other people that would be interested in hosting a node. I just need someone to organise it basically and to kind of get it together because I don't have the time. This is all written up in the post that I did last month, so I'll do another post. We also talked about the Sheffield Tree Map. There is an open source tree map of all of the Sheffield trees and what what is currently known about their status. We had a conversation about citizen journalism and the ability of providing data, and the fact that sometimes activists and activist groups can have better data and more accessible data than the organisations that they're railing against often. And I'm going to come to that in a sec actually, because I saw something else the other week that's related. I also introduced everyone to Travel Spirit, which is a Manchester-based kind of open source repository and community for mobility as a service technology. So anyone who's doing mobility as a service and can make data or code available, Travel Spirit are basically creating a repository of all of that open source code and data to allow cities and organisations and social enterprises to create their own mobility as a service products and services. So it's come out of Manchester. It's basically creating a global community around mobility as a service. And I'd like to get them over here to explain it and talk about where they've got to, but that's something else to engage with. I know that the guys at the Flow are in contact with Travel Spirit. I think they might be members or kind of.
I know Chris, if you want some contact.
You do. I mean, I know Simon Ho. I know the guys that are running it. So I don't need contact. I just want to make more people aware that it exists because I think it's a really good idea. And then we also talked about some of the winners of the Sheffield Design Awards, because Food Hall won, which is a social enterprise that provides a community kitchen using waste food. And they want to, they've got a closed beta version of an app that allows students to say, I'm going to cook at Food Hall today, does anybody want to come with me? And they need a little bit of technical support to turn that MVP app into a real proper mobile application and service. But they're a really interesting social enterprise. And the Greater Green scheme was another smart city related Sheffield Design Award winner. And we also talked about the Sheffield Digital Business Incubator, which was the decision about which has been made but has not been made public. So a few of us know what the outcome was, but we're not allowed to say. We're not sure when it's going to be announced. Apparently it's going to be in the new year. But that was the £3.5 million from the Treasury that was announced in spring 2015 to go into a digital incubator in Sheffield that was originally named the Maker Hub and is now called the Sheffield Digital Business Incubator. So hopefully they'll have made a public announcement. We can talk about it more at the next event, which may be in January, maybe at the beginning of February. It'd be nice to have it in January, actually. And finally, Sheffield Public Wi-Fi, which I know is an ongoing project. The council is letting a contract to provide public Wi-Fi. I'm going to talk a little bit about it because I have a little bit more information. Well, I might talk about it now, actually. As I understand it, it's a 10-year concession contract with a 5-year review, and it will probably not go out to public procurement, but it is going out to, I think, 20-odd providers that have already engaged with the process so far. More than that, I don't know. But the idea is that they let the concession, and the concessionaire provides public Wi-Fi in the city centre. It's not clear whether it includes interior spaces like the Winter Gardens and Moore Market and Millennium Galleries or not. But they do so at a zero cost to the council and a zero cost to the end user. So it will be free public Wi-Fi, and the business model is largely based on backhaul to the telecoms providers, so reducing capacity on the cellular network, but it's likely to also be an advertising supported business model as well. And we don't know what their scoring criteria are over that, and what kind of access Sheffield is going to get to whatever gateway page or whatever people actually engage with when they log in or register or whatever the process is of getting onto the network. So we haven't really got a good way of influencing this or seeing what's going on at the moment, unfortunately. Right, so that was last month anyway. News. So in reference to the Sheffield Tree Map, which is basically a Google map with lots of dots on it showing the current status of all the trees that have been evaluated and had their evaluations published, New York have taken a very different approach. So if you go to tree-map.nycgovparks.org, all of the trees in New York City are owned and managed by the New York City Parks Department, and they have a web portal where every tree is identified and interactable, and people can go and they can indicate what status it is. There's a way of saying this is the kind of state the tree's in. You can see when the last every tree was last maintained, or last had someone from the Park Service look at it and evaluate it. And that's all very interesting, and it's really kind of like a citizen science project, and lots of kids get involved in kind of naming trees and taking photos of trees and gathering more information about each individual tree, and there's hundreds of thousands in New York. But they're also applying a costing index that was developed by the US Forestry Commission. So every single tree in New York City has got a monetary value, and that value is based on how much flood table alleviation it provides, the carbon reduction that it creates, the reduction in air pollution, and a bunch of other measures, and that's all kind of crunched into a monetary value for every tree, so you can see how much each tree in the city is worth to the city and its citizens annually. And it's a really powerful way that they've kind of approached this, and I think it's the kind of thing that changes people's attitude and relationship with the built environment and the living part of the built environment. So it's worth checking out to kind of see, yeah, this is how it should be done, really. No matter what the politics are around the Sheffield situation, and everything else. So I think it just, if people were more aware that this kind of thing is possible, this could have been done for a fraction of what the massive TIFF has cost so far. And it's engaged loads of people in appreciating the environment more. And one of the things that I have been working with the BID on is establishing a Sheffield digital communications network. So last Wednesday, I held a workshop for the Business Improvement District to bring all of the people that run web and social media channels for key Sheffield entities together in a room, or as many as I could organise, to get them to talk to each other about working together more. So creating a network for people that work in communicating about the city, and there's a lot of enthusiasm for it. People are really keen to work together more closely, to start collaboratively telling a story and making the way that Sheffield talks about itself and to each other, and the way it engages much more dynamic, much more interesting, much more fun, and presents a much better picture on social media and web about what's going on in the city. So it was quite exciting. I had 17 people from across, both universities, Students' Union, Sheffield City Council, the Sheffield, Creative Sheffield, Marketing Sheffield, Site Gallery, a bunch of our favourite places, a bunch of really important Sheffield entities who are now keen to do more meetings. So it's probably going to be a monthly meetup of those people and others who are involved in communicating digitally about the city. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it's another interesting platform for the city to talk about itself. I should also mention that the Sheffield City Region Integrated Infrastructure Plan was released last week, written largely by Arup, I understand, and is now available online. It doesn't really say very much about smart cities, but it does say quite a lot about digital infrastructure and broadband connectivity. But if you want to understand the city region's vision for its infrastructure and how it's going to invest money and how it sees the economy of the Sheffield City region growing, and I mean, headline feature possibly is that it sees, I think it was 60% of all the jobs growth in the region coming from Sheffield City Centre. There's a lot of investment going to go on in Sheffield City Centre to provide the connectivity and the transport and everything else for the expected explosion in jobs and economic activity that they're hoping for here. I can't remember if 60% is the figure. It was 60-40 one way or the other, and I was quite surprised at how high it was. So I think it's 60, it might be 40, which would still be big. But yeah, so that's available from Sheffield City Region's website, so it's worth having a scan through. There's a separate executive summary of it if you don't want to read the whole thing. Another thing, so Site Gallery have just won a £750,000 award from Arts Council England to create what's called the City of Ideas, which is about applying art, combining art, creativity and digital technology to revitalise the area around the Site Gallery and the Cultural Industries Quarter, which is a really exciting project, and it's literally just been announced this week. But it's interesting it'll be interesting to see what kinds of collaborations are going to emerge from it to make the built environment more interactable and more responsive and more interesting for people to walk through and interact with. That's quite an exciting thing. Sheffield Digital Incubator, I've mentioned, can't say anything about it. Sheffield Public Wi-Fi, again, there's very little information about it and we don't really know what's happening. And that's it, so that's all the news I have. Does anyone else have any news that they want to share? Yes.
Please.
Yes.
I'm sharing this on behalf of Laura Bennett, who's at another event. So Laura is on the board of the Maker Hub Community Interest Company, which was one of the organisations that bid for the Sheffield Digital Incubator. She's able to say that they were not successful, but the board of the CIC are very keen to continue engaging with the community and also talking about what they could do. So they're having an open forum meeting on the 15th of December in the evening The details are on Eventbrite. They're on the Sheffield Digital Slack channel. I'll make sure they go on the Sheffield Digital event calendar, so you'll be able to find it there if you can't find it through Eventbrite, and register to go along and just be part of the conversation.
Yeah, yeah. So that was about building a hub for digital companies to incubate and accelerate and provide other community activities and networks and things like that around digital tech in the city. Okay, anyone else? Anything to say? Okay, if you want to discuss something at the tables, then write the topic and point to the table over there. But in the meantime, pizza served, get some more drinks, have a chat. Thank you very much.
So for everyone, Rob, are we able to do the demo now?
We'll be able to. I can sort some Wi-Fi out with Matt, yes.
So should we say if anyone wants to see the demo, say 10:08?
5 minutes. Ooh.
10 minutes? Oh, yeah, 5 minutes.
People have 10
minutes.
20 past.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we can pizza with pizza.
They can bring pizza.